just a hack. He's just an absolute hack. And he gets his ass kicked by his teammates every week. It's just, it's terrible. It's just terrible.
BYU versus Oregon, as I've already alluded to, was an eye-opener for us because we thought BYU, a lot of people thought BYU, and I even got text messages about this game that people were saying BYU should, should I bet on BYU? Should I put my money on BYU? Because I think they were like a 3-point dog on the road against Oregon. And I said, don't touch that game. Absolutely do not touch that game because it could go one of two ways. Oregon wins a close football game, BYU wins a close football game, or out of nowhere, Oregon explodes and kicks the crap out of them because they're juiced up and they're at home and they're facing a ranked team. I texted a couple different people that, and that is exactly what happened in this game. The things that we learned. Jaren Hall cannot do everything for this team. He threw the ball a ton in this game. His final passing total is 29 for 41 and 305 yards. 7 yards per attempt, 7.4 yards per attempt is really good. But they could not move the ball because nobody was having any success running the football. 2.5 yards per carry was that final notch for rushing attempts in this game. That inability to run the ball took BYU out of the game completely. And Oregon's defense gave us a performance that I was not expecting. I'll admittedly was not watching this game as much throughout the entirety of it because I had it on my laptop while I was watching the Penn State-Auburn game. This game was boring as hell to watch and to try and pay attention to because it was stop, Jaren Hall maybe picking up a third down and then a punt, and then Oregon running all over BYU's defense that was supposed to be really strong. That defense that we saw against Baylor did not show up in this game at all. I don't know if it's the different climate. I don't know if it was the trip. I have never thought that Oregon Stadium was a tough place to play, but somehow, some way, BYU looks like they're playing a behemoth. Looked like they were playing against Georgia. I will say, and I have to eat my crow here. I have always been willing to admit when I am wrong. I'm not saying that Bo Nix is suddenly a transformed quarterback, but I will give credit when credit is due. Bo Nix had a nice game. Not an elite one, but he had a nice game. He had a quality performance in this game. He ends up finishing 13 for 18, 222 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then he also had 3 rushing touchdowns, 5 total touchdowns in this game. I think that the success for this Oregon team is going to come down to replicating performances like this for Bo Nix. And what I mean specifically by that is not having him to do too much. When you're able to rush for 200 yards as a team and to have, I know 3 of those rushing touchdowns came from Bo Nix, but to have 3 rushing touchdowns and your quarterback only has to throw 18 passes and can complete most of them, that is how Oregon is going to continue to progress and maybe to be one of the teams competing in the Pac-12 championship game. The Pac-12 right now is up in the air, and you need to continue to not force Bo Nix to do everything. Bo Nix has never, ever been a guy who can take over a game. He has always tried to. And we saw, the Georgia game is a great example, in his career at Auburn, that when he tries to take over games, he plays like shit. He has always been a guy who tries to do way too much, runs in circles aimlessly until he can find a home run play. Ask him to do the little things. Let the run game take over. When he's throwing on 2nd and 5, or he's throwing, dump offs in the red zone past the 25-yard line because the run game is taking over, he's not stressed. You don't need him to, like we were just talking about with Rattler, to rise to the occasion. I think that this Oregon team is not as good as properly indicated as they played against Georgia. They are not that good. They are as good as they played in this game. I know that's a little bit wordy. All I mean by that is don't look at the Georgia results. First game for Dan Lanning in his tenure, got hit over the back of the head with a shovel, basically, as he's trying to get his feet underneath him. This is the game that is going to set the tone for this Oregon program. I have high hopes, and I think once they get Dante Moore, who we did a fantastic breakdown on, go check out that video that Matt Sims broke down and Ryan broke down Dante Moore. Really good analysis on him. Once he comes, this Oregon program could be very, very strong. Maybe they're playing in the Big Ten by then, by the time that he is the starting quarterback. But Oregon right now has that possibility to compete for the Pac-12. It is, as I see it, I don't consider Oregon State to really be in this race. It is a three-way race right now for the Pac-12 between USC, Oregon, and Utah still. Someone's going to get that second loss, and it's might possibly be when one of them plays one another, but it is going to come down to those three teams for the Pac-12.